and let us all do we can to build a better future. Guys, gals, everyone. Third stimulus check. When could you get that $1,400? Dan,
Wait,
did I read that correctly?
Did you say $2,000? Because that's what I remember we were promised. Was we had the $600, which was not to be all spent in one place by Joe Biden, and then after that there was supposed to be using his exact words, a $2,000 check. Now, I didn't hear him say a $600 check in a separate bill and a $1,400 check equaling $2,000. I heard him say a $2,000 check. So I must have misheard you, Kit.
Well, let me let you guys know what is going on. So President-elect Joe Biden's $1.9 trillion coronavirus relief package proposes a third round of stimulus checks of $1,400 for most Americans. Now, I heard him say $2,000. And I don't want to hear any of this BS from all the Biden defenders saying, well, technically the $600 is a down payment. Well, maybe if the Biden administration didn't get involved in the stimulus deal, we would not be having this conversation about $600 and then $1,400. He promised during the Georgia election $2,000. It just wasn't a down payment. $2,000 was promised. Those were his words. Now, if he said, hey, I'm going to do an additional $1,400, then okay, I'll give some leeway. But Biden and everyone else on social media, from the diehard Democrats to the blue checkmark people, were saying $2,000. And I guess, once again, the Democrats are backpedaling.
And technically, look, if people are going to really make the really bad case, but the case nonetheless that seems to be predominant, that he meant $1,400 because $600 plus $1,400, $2,000. Then let's be real. If it doesn't matter when the bill came in, then we should really be talking about a $200 check, because Trump gave us $1,200, and then there was $600, which means there should only be $200. If time doesn't matter and people's arguments that the $1,400 is accurate, they really mean to say that it should be $200, because that is the total stimulus amount, because that $600 was not done under Biden. It was done under Trump. So why would we only count one of Trump's checks and not both of them, but be so strong and so sure that Biden means only one of Trump's checks, not two of them, and not his own?
Right. So let's actually focus further on down in the article. Are the 1,400 checks a done deal? Very likely, according to a Wall Street and political analysis. There's a growing support among Republican lawmakers for additional stimulus directed toward low and middle income households, with the latest effort to pass $2,000 stimulus checks winning some bipartisan support. There's an 85% chance a scaled-down package will be passed in the first 3 months of 2021, predicts Height Securities Hammond. Because of the ongoing support for additional direct aid to households, checks are likely to be included in that smaller package. We believe there is support for a smaller package that includes the $1,400 checks, more health care funding, support for small businesses, and some state and local aid, Mills said. When could I get the $1,400 check? Alex Phillips, chief U.S. political economist with Goldman Sachs, the most trusted organization in the world.
I mean, they have Goldman Sachs. So.
Thinks the package could be passed in mid-February to mid-March. After the relief bill passes Congress, it must be signed by the president. After that, the IRS would distribute the funds through direct deposit, mail checks, and prepaid debit cards. In the first stimulus payments in April of 2020, which directed $1,200 to eligible adults, as well as $500 per child, it typically took 2 weeks to several months for payments to reach people. The second round of checks, which sent $600 to each eligible adult and child, required about a week for the funds to arrive via direct deposit. But in some cases, people experienced delays in receiving the money due to problems with their account information. Based on previous stimulus money payouts, assuming Congress passes a new relief bill by mid-February, the checks could arrive in bank accounts by late February, although that would likely be a best-case scenario. If a package is passed by the end of March, people might get their checks by early April. So you're still waiting for the $1,400. That's what they're saying. That's what they're saying. You're going to be waiting. You're going to be waiting. Can you afford the wait?
We're going to be waiting for a check that's less than was promised, but we still have detractors arguing that it's the right amount, even though by their own logic, as I stated earlier, that it should be a $200 check then if we say that anything Trump passed matters. And if we're really just saying what Trump recently passed matters, again, I go back to my original point, then you're just saying things.
Yeah, and look, I know no one likes Trump. Trump's going to go bye-bye very soon. But the Democrats made promises, and here's what's very interesting, because there's a couple more things I want to read, and then I got to show you guys this disturbing video, because things are going to get worse. The caveat in these timeframes assume that at least 10 Republican senators support the package, allowing for 60 votes in the Senate to overcome possible filibuster and pass the bill, analysis noted. If the Biden administration cannot muster enough GOP support, then stimulus backers could move to pass it under a process known as budget reconciliation. That parliamentary maneuver only requires a majority vote for legislation to become law, though it can delay a package. So
just wait longer, guys. The people that have a lot of money in healthcare have it figured out.
Yeah, and that means also, hey, remember Joe Manchin? He doesn't want you to have stimulus checks. He's against it. Now, I found this paragraph very interesting. Do Americans really need the money? Daniel, do you think Americans really need the money?
Well, we're all temporarily embarrassed millionaires, so I think we're okay.
So, signs point to millions of households facing financial hardship as the pandemic worsens, which is causing some businesses to lay off staff and cut back hours. In December, hiring around the United States fell for the first time in 7 months, as the virus weighed especially hard on restaurants, bars, and other service-related businesses. The number of Americans applying for weekly jobless claims, a proxy for layoffs last week, also jumped to nearly 1 million. The financial need is great amongst low-income households, yet almost half of households with incomes above 150K said they need the stimulus checks for financial stability, according to a recent survey from Credit Karma. Almost 6 in 10 households are facing financial hardship, TransUnion found in a November survey. The additional stimulus funds will be essential to the financial stability of many Americans, including those who appear to be higher earners. Colin McCurry, chief people officer at Credit Karma, told CBS Money Watch in an email. As the pandemic drags on, Americans are continuing to feel the financial crunch. Overall, Mr. Biden's stimulus plan would amount to roughly $3,500 per household, according to Oxford Economics. In other measures to support workers and help prop up the economy, he also wants to enhance unemployment benefits to $400 a week and has called for raising the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour. The pay floor now is $7.25 an hour, and it has been lifted since 2009, although many states and cities around the United States have boosted the local minimum wage. I want you all to know, the rest of the developed world has figured out how to provide single-payer health care for their people, and they're giving them UBI or temporary UBI. They figured it out. People in Canada, the European Union, Great Britain, other countries, they figured it out. Now, again, are we just stupid? Is our government just incredibly inept? Or is this just how the system's designed and we're all supposed to struggle? Because now the great big lie of neoliberalism is being shown and every single American is struggling. Every single American is at risk of being evicted from their homes. Don't believe me? FaZe, let's play that video. Shout out to Case Study QB. Follow him on Twitter. Again, this video is going to be difficult to watch because we are all this person.
And it's on mainstream media. That's the other part.
Yeah.
Difficult.
Yeah.
I ask you something about the economic fallout from all of this, because COVID is creating another crisis, an unprecedented number of evictions in L.A. County when the moratorium expires. You saw this firsthand. Although help is on the way, the president-elect is promising to extend that moratorium on evictions and foreclosures on Inauguration Day, according to a memo from his chief of staff.
Andrew, I thought it was a typo when I first saw it. 495,000 households, not people, are at risk of eviction if those moratoriums aren't extended in Los Angeles County alone, according to UCLA. We went out to see what mass evictions would look like because the truth of the matter is there have been evictions during COVID. They may be pre-COVID evictions, but they are underway. I want you to take a look at this real quick.
Richest country in the world.
You got a second to give us the scoop?
Yeah. Yep. So apparently initially we were told that the male had COVID. He took the test 2 weeks ago. So that time has expired, so that can't stop it.
The man who was living here is going to get his pets, it looks like, from the backyard. We watched as the occupants dropped off their pets to a neighbor and loaded other possessions into a car.
The richest country in the world.
Andrea, it's inequality, economic inequality that, of course, is fueling all of this. And it's not just the federal moratoriums. Activists on the ground are looking to state and local leaders also to step up here and to really fill in the gaps where COVID has put people in this untenable position, because this will be around long after COVID goes away, Andrea.
Twin crises, the economic is caused by the pandemic, and they're completely related. Jacob Soboroff, thank you.
You damn robot. All right, let me just state this real quick, and then I want to give Daniel the final word. These are American citizens. That person that we saw being evicted, that's all of us. In the richest country in the world, we can't provide households, UBI, healthcare for our people, but yet tax breaks, unlimited funding for wars, and, bailouts for major corporations in foreign countries. We can't take care of our people. 30 to 40 million Americans are at risk at the end of January 31st to be evicted from their homes. To the sheriff's offices, you do realize that you can make a judgment call and not follow those orders. You do realize that you don't have to do that. To the local, legislators, people at the city level, state level. You do realize that maybe you do have the power to issue to your local law enforcement and say, hey, you know what? We can't do this to our people. We can't do this to our constituents. We have to protect them at the height of a pandemic. And yet the Biden administration, the Democrats, and corporate media, we're all cheering because Trump's gone, and now there's this big cheer for censorship, especially on social media. But guess what? You can't hide this. You can't hide the fact that people are going to be homeless on the streets. It's going to get worse. This is only the beginning. And if nothing fundamentally changes, good luck in telling people to calm down. Good luck in telling someone who is raising their voice or screaming because their loved ones are suffering that them yelling is violence. Because it will get violent pretty soon if nothing changes. Good luck in telling people that they're being irrational when they're facing starvation or dying from treatable diseases. Somehow the rest of the world has figured out how to have social safety nets for their people. Somehow they figured it out. Is it a great big conspiracy? Are we just that stupid? Here's the real fact. Our politicians are heartless. And when we do ask our progressive legislators to fight, they give us excuses. When we ask large activist groups that have a history about fighting for forced to vote, they don't have a plan. They have to go through a committee. We cannot wait any longer. This is only going to get worse if our political leaders choose inaction. And our corporate media, I just like how monotone she was at the end, like a robot. Daniel, what's the final word?
Yeah, so sadly, as it usually tends to be, we were right on something that's, of course, terrible when we're right about, which is, and this is a lot of what Laney's been covering as well, specifically on these evictions.
Tune in on Thursday.
Yeah. Let me put this in another example before I actually talk about this, because it's just like, I don't feel like I should have to lay this out, but I do. A homeless person in a major city costs the municipal taxpayer about $70,000 a year. That's for police overtime, hospital visits, ambulance rides, etc. If you were to give these people, if you were to convert a large building to very small apartment units or make tiny homes or whatever you want to do, just like the very, very basic, like small studios that you can give people for free. First of all, I know that everyone's like, yeah, but I had to work for my house. Yeah, you live in a house, not a room. And make sure that there's social workers available in these buildings. It's actually far cheaper to do that. The other problem is, again, this is all from going through economics, because the people that care about this that aren't already with us are on the economic side of this. So first of all, $70,000 in the streets, about half of that if they are put in a place where they can have people look after them, help them to get back on their feet. Other side of it, they're not getting jobs and therefore they're not getting paid. They're not getting taxes, which means the government makes less money. So that's an issue. Now, there are usually not hundreds of thousands of people homeless in a city. But what happens when there are? What happens when these moratoriums stop? And we heard this from the news report that they say like 400,000 people,
495,000 households.
So that's like 2.5 people. So it's like 1.5 million people. You can't save money by putting yourself in a position to spend all that money. Because what are you going to do when there's 1.5 million homeless, when LA becomes 10% homeless? That seems like a situation in which you're going to have a lot of crime and not a lot of jobs. You're going to lower your home value. You're going to do a lot to destroy your own city. And everyone's point of view is still, well, I don't want to give money to poor people because they might use it. Just like we've been seeing other people, economists, going, we shouldn't give any, that $1,400 we want to give to Americans is bad because they might put it in savings, unlike all those billionaires who definitely spent all of their money. This is a time bomb waiting to go off. And when it does, oh man, it's, you know how we've been saying on the show for a while that, hey, Trump was not the root of all evil. He just took advantage of the situations that were already put in his place. Well, it's going to be hard for Biden to argue that when he's like already shut the $1,200 check into a $600 from a $2,000 to a $1,400. By the way, if you count up all the reductions Biden has tried to do just right now, he has pulled $1,200 out of your mouth, $1,200 out of Americans' mouth right now. He's not even president yet. Mm-hmm. That's already what he's done.
Nancy did the same thing,
and
too.
Nancy, of course, she's feeding people ice cream. She's feeding the homeless ice cream. You heard her on Wolf Blitzer. If you haven't fed the homeless, you don't get the blah, 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 blah. So the point is, we have this time bomb of homelessness to people who otherwise were trying to have reasonable lives before this pandemic, which they didn't cause. They didn't do anything. They didn't fire themselves from their jobs. They're not the ones that laid themselves off. It was the businesses that got enormous amounts of money for doing so who did. This is a time bomb waiting to happen. And the Biden government is doing everything it can to do nothing while it happens. And it's going to be a weird scenario where we can argue that Trump did more, or Trump tried to do more, and the Democrats have just stopped everything. Trump wanted more money. Democrats said no. Trump wants another stimulus payment. Democrats, specifically Biden, say cut it in half. Democrats say they're going to give people $2,000. They say, nope, the thing we gave you before also counts into it, even though it was Trump that did it. This is a recipe for disaster. And as Lainey's pointed out, you can only extend the moratorium for so long, because as much as we really need to care about the people who can't pay rent, we also need to care about the small-time landlords that can't maintain people not paying rent and then selling their assets off, which when you do a property conversion, everyone can get kicked out. Rules are all different. Mm-hmm. So the question is, are we going to follow a system that keeps people in their homes and keeps these small-time, non-consolidated landlords from leaving the business, or are we going to kick everyone out and give the ultra-wealthy property owners even more wealth when all these landlords are forced to sell their buildings because they can't collect on rent?
Yeah. It's going to get worse. Please, everyone, be safe. Let's be kind to each other. And more importantly, we have to help each other out in every which way we can, because I think it's going to get worse.